Hello, it's Graham Cope with another My Music. In a few seconds' time, I will be speaking to my friend Warren here. But first, we're going to look at this little clip of this man playing with his laptop.
I need to get going, Mel. I'll see you later.
And now with our posture all suitably adjusted, thanks to the wonderful neck stand who sponsored this, I can talk to Warren. Warren, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Graham. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And I must admit, I quite like that thing. I might be one of the customers for that next. That's a great little gadget for the laptop. Yeah, everything's good with us. Just releasing the new record. We're excited and getting all the promos kind of taken off at the moment.
Tell everyone, if they have never heard of you before, what's the name of the band? Where did the name come from? Because it's an interesting name.
Yeah, well, the band's called Starry Skies. It's made up of 7 people. We have kind of the usual bass, drums, vocals, and guitar, but we also slightly different. We have cello, violin, and viola, which gives a kind of big sound for some of the songs. The name came from kind of partly to do with the song Vincent by Don McLean, Starry, Starry Night. And also Starry Skies is mentioned in a Waterboys song. So I think maybe just all these things filtered through. And at one point, I was looking for a name for the band, and somebody just said Starry Skies, and that was it. That's been what we've been called for the last number of years.
Wow, wonderful. And how did the band get together?
Well, we made a record called Ask the Animals way back in the realms of time, way back in like 2013 or 14 or something. And then we did this bizarre thing as a group. I love Nina Simone, so we decided to do this bizarre kind of tribute to Nina Simone in the biggest concert hall, in one of the biggest concerts in Scotland, called the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall. So we did this big kind of tribute to Nina Simone, which took us about a year or something to get it all together. It was a sellout, it was good, but that kind of delayed the second album. So it took us about 4 years to do the second album. And then after that, we can release an album every 2 years now.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, it's good not to go straight into a sophomore or, whatever, but I mean, Nina Simone, what a beautiful thing to do. I mean, I can understand that.
Well, the reason for that was I met Nina Simone when I was a kid.
Wow.
Which was bizarre, actually. It gives more wow, because I actually danced with her, bizarrely. I was at a concert, I was really young, and she reached out and she says, "Which one are you?" Like, men. She pointed to all these really fancy seats right at the front. It was all the kind of like
yeah.
She said, "It's going to dance with me tonight," or something like that. And I was like sitting there, and I was just a massive fan. I just love her voice. And I don't know what overtook me, because although I am a front person, a singer, I'm quite shy as well a lot. So it's not like me to do what I did that night, which was I was with this girl. And it was kind of on a date, and she said afterwards she looked and she went to turn to say to me, like, look to the left to say, "Oh, what do you make of that?" And she looked and I was gone, and I was like running down the aisle. We were right at the back, run down the aisle and just ran down the front, and just literally she was saying, "So no one's going to dance with me," and I just jumped up the stage and I was on the stage, and then she danced. She was like, "Okay, we danced this song and stuff," and then at the very end she came over and she just kind of touched me and said thanks. And so that's the reason why we bizarrely done this Nina Simone concert, because I've just always been a fan. And we'd done one song for a show in this place called the Grand Old Opry, and I really enjoyed doing the song, but I didn't really want to. It just was. You can't really better Nina Simone's songs, so we done it as a kind of a celebration of her. But it was great with Justin Curry from that band, Delamitri. Justin's a friend. He came up and did a duet with me. It was quite funny. He turned up on stage in this concert hall and he put on this bizarre looking dress just as I wrote. So Justin Curry could have walked on and completely threw me. But yeah, it was a good experience. But anyway, since then we've been more focused on our own things, and again we're now promoting the new album, which is called Small Wonders.
Oh, what a story! I mean, I have people on that have their little stories, but that's a great one. That's a really, really good one. And I mean, why wouldn't you jump on stage with Nina Simone? I mean,
nobody else was doing it. Nobody else.
Well, that's the main reason to do it, my friend. That's always the main reason to it. Yeah. What got you interested in music in the first place? I mean, did you grow up around music, or
I wasn't aware of it until a number of years ago, but the mum and dad, usually people's parents, they stuck on some records, so with the Beatles, some Elvis and things. But so it was kind of Elvis first, like an Elvis, bizarrely, years ago when I was a wee teeny wee boy, that I first kind of thought, that's a good job, you know, like everybody fancy cars and all these things. So that'd be good fun. But bizarrely, it turns out that my family, the way I lived when I was a really young kid, a baby in Prospect Hill Road. So for one reason or other, there was a lot of kind of quite well-known, really old school from generations before musicians used to come down, because used to have loads of parties in the house, and my mum and dad were kind of part of, I suppose you'd loosely call the kind of folk scene. So you'd people like that band Ginger Baker, a guy called the drummer from Cream, and who else? Jerry Rafferty, who's a really famous kind of singer. And a lot of these people would have been at parties and had the guitars out, you know, and and I recently did a little trip around kind of Germany, Italy, and I visited a family friend called Martin Hind. And Martin's, again, a good bit older than me, but Martin was telling me all the stories of, like, yeah, Jerry Rafferty was there and he was been there in your house and all these stories. He told me the story of how Baker Street was strange. This was only a few weeks ago. He told me how the story of Baker Street was written, that really famous song. And he said he went through all the lines and he said, that was that guy Ian and that was so-and-so. He was a pal of your dad's. And he went through all the, and I was like, oh, really? So that was in Frankfurt. I went away a wee trip recently. So yeah. So strange times.
Yeah. It sounds like we should actually, it feels like we should be listening to Baker Street now, or some of these songs by the people that you're mentioning, and so you can exactly so that you can recall the story over the top of it. Yeah. Marvelous. Oh wow. You're full of stories. So
I should really be talking about the new album. I'm really bad.
No.
Let's forget on radio and podcasts and things that you're on.
I will make sure
in the pub or something.
I will make sure we talk about the new album. Don't worry about that at all. But let's go back to that. So you were surrounded by music, but when did it actually start to dawn on you that this was part of your life?
I suppose I was about 13 years old, and I was playing in a band, and I played drums in a band, and I wasn't a very good drummer. In fact, I was pretty hopeless.
How did you start then?
I started because I guess a friend was playing the guitar or something. Was kind of thing. We'll put a band together, and I ended up playing hat boxes. It was actually like somebody's granny had all these old hat boxes. I mean, who knew there's such a thing? But these things on top of our wardrobe, and I would play those, and then eventually I got a drum kit.
Yeah,
I wasn't really good at drums.
Dave Grohl started on pillows.
He did indeed. Yes, I think I used pillows as well. But so never as good as Dave Grohl. He's a great drummer. So I was pretty rubbish, and then I sang one song in the group called the Revs, and then years later, a friend of my family came by with her son, and her son had been for a guitar lesson, and he played a song called Wild Thing was by a band called Trogs. It's an old 60s classic. And people, you know, it goes, Wild Thing, you make my heart sing. So it's this kind of classic rock and roll song. It probably actually spawned or kind of inspired, I mean, hundreds of thousands of groups, probably that song, because it's just such a kind of cliche rock and roll song. But anyway, he played that on his acoustic guitar when he came round visiting the house, and I was just hooked. I was just really transfixed, and I was like, wow. And so I got my dad. My dad got me an acoustic guitar for my birthday a few months later, and I started kind of playing quite obsessively. And ever since then, since I was 15, I kind of, just obsessively writing songs and enjoying the social aspect of it. And as a result, I've ended up organising hundreds and hundreds of events for other songwriters. So you get to know a lot of people. So it's a very rewarding thing to be involved in.
It's quite interesting you mentioned the Trog song, because I always see that as a little bit of almost a bit of an anti-sing song, if you know what I mean. It's not a great, technical vocal performance, but maybe I think in some ways it's songs like that encourage people, because it's like, I can kind of do that, I can put it.
That's the ethos of kind of punk, really, isn't it? Andy could do, and you didn't need this real skill. But you're right about Wild Thing. It is such a simple song, because anybody, you can play it in three chords, I think, and it's really easy to play. I don't know if you play an instrument, but it's really straightforward to play, so you can play it quickly, so you can get a result. But I actually met Chip Taylor. He wrote another song that's really famous called Angel of the Morning. And had you know his niece is Angelina? How was she say her name? Angelina Brad Pitt's
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. I can never pronounce her name. Yes, he's her uncle. But so I went. It's true. Just as another interesting aside, interesting to me anyway. I went to see him. I saw him advertised like Chip Taylor, the man who wrote Wild Thing and all these famous songs. And he was playing in this little kind of place nearby where I live. Mogai is nearby, and he was playing in this little hall. And honestly, there was like 25, 30 people there. And he played Wild Thing, and he did this band. And the guy in the band, the one that his guitarist typically played with like Dire Straits, I don't know, these big stadium bands. And it was kind of actually very, what's the word? It was grounding, and also it was really good for the ego to see a guy like Chip Taylor who wrote so many famous songs, and to see him playing to 30 people, it made me think, God, if Chip Taylor will play to 30 people, I should be happy to play to one person or two people, you know. So if ever we do a gig and there's hardly anybody in the audience, I wouldn't let it put me off after seeing Chip.
I think those little songs, though, those simple little songs, really capture the imagination. I mean, when I started learning to play guitar, I was very lucky. We were in a band at the time. I was a singer, and I'd left it to everybody else for years, but I got quite frustrated with that because it's like they would say, don't touch the guitars, don't touch them, you know, they're ours. So when I finished with the band that I was in, I spent about 6 weeks learning to play the guitar, but I was around, we were being managed at the time by Hilton Valentine.
Oh, wow.
From the Animals. So he taught me how to play House of the Rising Sun, which was very
nice. Wow. God, you need to talk more about that. That's absolutely amazing, because that guitar line is, and people hear it, and House of the Rising Sun is quite an easy song to play the chords, but it's really hard to play that guitar line properly. I've tried doing it with the harmonica as well. It's really hard. So you get taught the guitar line. That is amazing.
Yeah. There you go.
So what happened? So how did he end up in management?
Well, because he was hanging around the Sunderland area, and you know that his bandmate was a prolific manager, but yeah, he just I don't even know that our bass player knew him.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, our bass player knew him, and he ended up coming to one of our gigs and said, "Yeah, I'll help you."
Fantastic. That's really good.
So a lovely thing. There you go. Now, your sound, sir. Your sound. You're coming back to today, and the latest album, etc. Your sound. I mean, it's when you put it on. The first thing I heard was Passenger. Okay. Yeah. I heard. You know, there's a little bit of a twang there from the voice. There's that kind of pop but folk sensibility, etc. And I was thinking, is this going to sound like a Passenger album? All right. And I hope that doesn't upset you.
It doesn't, because I've never heard anything by Passenger. This is a good education, because again, I'm not as, I've got friends who just know everything by everybody. And when you said Passenger, they'd have told you the best song by Passenger from the best album and told you all these facts. I think my brain's like a sieve. And then I couldn't tell you one Passenger song, so I don't know whether or not I'll maybe leave this and then come and listen to Passenger and then be terribly insulted, or I won't, or I'll be terribly flattered. But I don't know. I love all music.
There you go. So I was thinking Passenger, but then we start going through it, and I'm thinking, well, my goodness, bits of this could be Thin Lizzy, bits of this could be, you know, bands like Jet. You know, I mean, it's sonically, it's quite diverse, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, very. It's always the word eclectic's a word that's been used before, and it can be a challenge. And I used to always kind of see you always try to see the positive things, but I used to think it's difficult because it is so different. I mean, like track one, you're right, it's a kind of acoustic number, it's quite reflective. It was written during COVID, actually, and it was quite an emotional song to write at the time, because it was actually written during the time, and it doesn't sound like a sad song, it's quite a hopeful song.
No, it doesn't at all.
But see that line a bit like, and if you fall down low with no one by your side, remember you can fly across all distance in your mind. That was actually written about when you were hearing these terrible stories about people were like saying goodbye to their loved ones with laptops and stuff like that. You know, that's kind of, so it started off, I've been listening to Elliot Davis, it started off being quite sad and then turning out. But you're right, so there's that song that's reflective. Then the next song's like a kind of quite pop punk, like Jet. It's almost like the undertones or something. It's quite up tempo. And then the next one's quite folky Dylan-y, I suppose, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are very, very varied, and they keep on varying. So I thought it was negative because it means that it's quite hard to put it in a set genre. So if you're trying to go on playlists or other things, but I think it's positive because the songs are all of a pretty good quality because Matt's such a good producer, and as a result, it means that we've been getting played in breakfast shows, lunchtime shows, Americana shows, indie shows, afternoon shows. So I suppose that's a positive thing. We've had quite a broad appeal, but yeah, we're certainly not. I mean, what would you, if you had to say, like, what are Starry Skies? What kind of music do they play? What would you say in 2 words?
In 2 words.
All right, a few words.
Oh my word!
Sorry. Whatever way, many words you want. Right?
I'd say it's like listening to all of the sort of best melodic bits of your album collection with different tones. There we go.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? It's quite difficult.
It's really quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's really
you
quite
played your
difficult.
music as well. It's quite difficult. What are we, indie folk? I suppose. So I suppose the term we have to pick is indie folk because that's the best.
Yeah.
We've been very lucky. There's been some amazing. The big takeover in New York. That's a big American music magazine. They gave us I was blushing reading the review they gave us last week of it. It was like, it couldn't actually have been any better if I'd written it myself. I was quite shocked. So we've been really lucky. It's not been went against us, thankfully. So yeah, I
think the thing that comes over very strongly is the quality, as you said, the quality of the songs. The quality of the songwriting is fantastic. I mean, they're memorable little melodies.
Yeah,
and that's really important, you know. And I love the fact that you've got the kind of juxtaposition in there of sort of melancholy and happiness in terms of. I mean, I'm just reading Johnny Marr's autobiography at the moment, a couple of nights ago, he was talking about when he wrote This Charming Man, and some of their songs. That they were known as kind of miserabilis, but actually some of his little guitar lines, like This Charming Man, such a beautiful upbeat guitar sound.
Yeah, well, actually, you see, you can have a sad song that's just got something about it that takes it away from being just kind of miserable. Yeah, I mean, This Charming Man's not really a sad song, but you're right, they did get that reputation, and loads of the stuff is uplifting. So we're lucky is that I appreciate the kind words about the songwriting. That's the thing that I like most is songwriting. So I really appreciate that. I must say though, whenever I can, I have to give credit to Matt Harvey because he was the guy who produced it for us. And I mean, see when you listen to the songs, there's all these different wee noises, and I hear them sometimes. I was listening to a song the other day, and I could hear this wee clicking noise at one point, and I thought, what is that? And then it's some kind of block, or it's some kind of percussion thing, but I'd never noticed it before, and it was certainly not me that put it on there, put it that way, but there's loads of things like that at some point Matt's went, right, during that wee teeny section, something needs to go in, so I need to do a wee thing that will just take it along to that next section. So he done all that stuff, and he wrote the strings lines, and Matt's a very talented guy, composition.
It is very well produced, because it's sonically very big in areas, and where it's sensitive production, because where it just needs to be little acousticy moments, it is just quite bare, and then when it needs to be big, it's big, but it's certainly good quality production all the way through as well. So no, totally get that. So what's the sort of manifesto of the band? Does it have a?
Well, it does. We do. It's funny you say that. I never used to. And I suppose manifesto of the band is just to kind of spread hope and kind of positivity wherever we can. And it is cliche, but some of the best things are a bit cliche. It's like I love sad music. I love sad music, and I can. But we don't want to play, and some of the songs have got a reflective, but kind of life can be quite tough, and I think music that's uplifting and quite kind of cheery and positive, we need as much of it as possible. And I just love the idea of these songs, are because of the kind of new digital age, they're just all these different countries people hear them in. There's like somewhere in Italy, and there's been a number of different places. But it's just great to think of, the songs having an impact on somebody. And I used to be very kind of like competitive when I was younger and thinking like where I wanted to get a band to be. But then it was all about volume. But then a few things happened to me, and I kind of learned a lot over from the last album. Somebody got in touch, very briefly. Somebody got in touch, and they'd struggled, this person. Do you know what I mean? Did some physical issues. I mean, really bad illness stuff. And they got in touch, and they basically just said what they'd heard our songs on the radio, and they said what an impact it had over this time, over a couple of years. They started buying all our stuff and talking about it, and it was just like, it was funny because it changed completely how I think about music. Before, all I thought was about volume. It's like being really popular or successful. But then it made me realise that it is about quality, really. Like, see that I won't mention it as a private matter for me, but the impact that this song had on that one individual was big impact on him, and that person really needed something positive. And the fact that when a song that I wrote it's a total so flattering, honoured that I was in that position, that song that went out in the airwaves helped this guy. But it made me think afterwards, made me reflect. I thought I wouldn't say that for playing in Bob Dylan's band or touring in the Rolling Stones or getting single of the week in Radio 1 for 3 weeks running. I genuinely wouldn't say that if somebody says, all right, okay, you can get that, but that guy's not going to hear that song, so he wouldn't have, So it's kind of like that impact that had on him emotionally, that's worth more than some transient flavour on the lips of somebody going, I could do. I mean, it maybe made £10 million, but did it really actually, and it made a lot of people happy, so I'm not knocking that song, it's a great song, but you know where I'm coming from. It's to me is, would I rather a big chunk of money and having written some disposable, sweet, daft song or have an impact on somebody's life? And I suppose the answer is to have an impact.
Well, you see, that's the thing, isn't it? When you say, Agadoo, Black Lace, that it made loads of people happy. It actually made loads and loads of people, miserable as well, because I think the thing is, I was thinking about it while you were talking. I was then reflecting on your music and what the overall aspect of it is, and I think what it has is it has an emotional energy, right? And I think that's the key here, because it's the kind of music where when you go to listen to it, I think you'll be lifted by it, but you'll feel a sense of empathy at the same time, communal empathy, and that's why it will touch people. Whereas something like Black Lace, we might all, when if people have had a few drinks, we might all have a dance to it or whatever, but you won't be left with anything afterwards. Yeah. And I think what you're saying is you're trying to make music, which I believe you have. You're trying to make music where people will be left with something more after imbibing it,
100%. But I am though different though. I don't think I'm doing it for myself. So that's what I kind of realised. See, when I was really young, when I was my first band at 17, we used to be this band, and you'll recognise this having been in bands. I'm like, we used to joke, and we'd be sitting around to give them a blag or something. We'd joke and we'd say, "Oh, we make music for ourselves, and if anybody else likes it, it's a bonus." And then we would all roll about laughing because it was strictly not true. We did not make music for ourselves. We made music because we wanted to be rich and famous. Categorically, that was it. And we enjoyed music and we loved playing music, but that was a primary aim for us. And it's actually weird to have got to the point where, like, genuinely, I'm accepting that I don't make music. Some people think, I make music to change the world or to spread the message or to make the world a better place. And a lot of time, I think that's just, I'm sure maybe they believe it, but to me, it's just ill-advised nonsense. People are doing things for themselves. When people paint a picture, they're kind of painting it for themselves. They're not painting it for the person that will see it. And all the music and all the things I do in music is for selfish reasons, because I want to express something. Don't always know what it is. And then, so I found myself years later being in the position where genuinely I like the record now. And luckily some other people like it, but that is the important thing and I mean, so it's like, I suppose I'm trying to say this, I'm trying to counter this idea I was maybe given that I was doing songs for an altruistic motive. I don't. I do songs for myself, but what is great is that first, I think because I'm quite pure of heart doing it, because I'm doing it for myself, and because I'm not trying to second guess anything or what people would like, there is that purity that has actually resonated with people.
I think that comes with a certain maturity of life as well, to be honest. I mean, I can remember when I first started in radio many years ago, and I totally appreciate what you're saying there, because, you know, to begin with, I sucked at radio. And the reason I sucked at radio was because I was just really focused on trying to be something, you know, and you'd watch and listen to other people doing it, and you'd go, oh, I want to be like that, and be as successful as that person and whatever. And then when, you know, later on in life, when you get to a point where you're just happy with who you are, and what, you know, what other people get from you being you, then that switches off, and it's almost as though all of the kind of BS mode that you've got going on, which actually affects your performance, and your output, gets pushed away, and suddenly what you're doing is just something that you're proud of. But the reason you're proud of it is because, as you say, it touches, you know, one or two people, or it works for you ultimately in the first place, but it's from a better point of view of it working for you. It's a cure for you in a way, or it's what you really feel passionate about. It's why I started this show. I didn't need to start this show. I mean, I think that's another thing as well. If you don't need it to happen,
that's
right, then it's more important, or it's more real and more authentic. You know, I didn't need to start this. I didn't, you know, no one was, you know, paying me money to start this, etc. But I said, I want to do this program because, you know, I have a love of music, and I also think that there are a load of people out there interviewing people about music, which in the most dreadful way. Sorry, folks, but stop doing it.
Absolutely true. But you're very natural now, so whatever you were trying to do before in radio, you've obviously don't do anymore, because that's the thing is once you actually you're talking, that this is just it's very, very natural, you know, which is a good thing. You're right, I think you do with age comes some wisdom, I think. Do you mean? But
Oh, absolutely. And you stop, in a way, you stop that kind of looking at the script, and you stop trying to stop meeting expectations which are not right for you or anybody else at all, you know. Hence why you still get and a little bit of advice for anybody out there: if you're still asking musicians about what their favorite biscuit is, stop it right now.
Or color,
you know, because color, animal, whatever, because quite frankly, these people have spent time and effort working on albums. They really want to talk about music and stuff like that, you know, not biscuits.
Well, on that note, we're delighted with the response so far. I mean, the album's only out a week, and it's we're just really, really lucky. You know, it's like very lucky.
Well, I think people will love this album. If you've enjoyed listening to Warren today, you want to hear all of those blends of different sounds. You want to hear some of the wisdom of his time on Earth as well. Then where can people go and hear your album, sir?
Well, only a couple of the tracks are on Spotify at the moment, but there's lots of the other albums that are all on Spotify. The last one, Do It With Love, which was quite well. So again, they can look at, I suppose, see if you just Google, the easiest thing is they can look at Foxstar Records, but see if somebody just Googles Starry Skies, Small Wonders, loads of stuff will come up. Yeah, Starry Skies, Small Wonders, various things.
There you go. Yeah, no one can forget that. Starry Skies, Small Wonders, Google it, find them on Twitter, find them on Insta, give them a follow. You know, all those little follows really help as well, because it helps the band to keep in touch with you. You know, and enjoy their music, folks. I'm sure you absolutely will. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, really enjoyed it, Graham. Thanks so much for having me. It's great. Thank you.
No problem at all. I shall now go and do what I need to do, which is get the kids to the dentist. Important things in life like that. And keep listening to music, folks. Bye.